Welcome back to the BigCheese AI podcast. I am the world's second best moderator behind Jason Calacanis. My name is DeAndre Herakis. I'm joined by the usual suspects, Sean Hise, Brandon Corbin, and Jacob Wise. And we have yet another setup, and we'll continue to get better.
Yeah, new set. We got the band back together fully. Everyone's here today.
Yep.
Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff to talk about, too.
So before we begin, I think we should talk a little bit about the studio that you're building. Sure. Because there's a lot of work that goes into this. As you guys have, if you've been following us, you know that our backgrounds have changed quite a bit. But that DeAndre here has been setting up for lack of a better word, just a podcast studio here in Indianapolis that could potentially be used by other people who would want to be podcasting.
Sure. Little life update, everybody. I have accepted a COO role with a marketing company called Maverick Marketing. They know about this.
I would hope so.
That's good that they know about it.
As a part of that, we've had this really cool space in Keystone at the Crossing, right off 465, the Indiana Wesleyan building. And we used it for my startups office, and we just were like, hey, let's turn this into a content studio where people can come in. So we've got 5 separate walls in here where you can flip around a wall and have a completely different background. So you can create like really professional looking podcasts. We've got amazing cameras and all the lighting's there. So it's really, really fun. You even have areas where you can go and you can shoot like solo content where you're like kind of sitting in front of this cool dynamic background. It looks like you're in this really nice space and you spend all this time, but really you walk in, you hit a button, and we can actually do the edits for you and help you deliver some high level quality content with ease. Because everybody wants to make cool content, but it's hard to actually build up the setups. And so that's kind of the vision for this space, and we have even more updates coming out as we probably next week I'll announce what even bigger things. This is like the prototype of what we're building. Like the next version is going to be this times 10. Right. It's going to be much bigger. I can't wait to talk about it, but thanks, Brandon, for the shout out because it is kind of exciting. Yeah, I awesome. Like what we've done here so far.
Great job.
I like what you've done here. What movie is that from? That would be Wayne's World.
Was it? Yeah. So you're the guy who knows all of the zingers.
Every time somebody says a statement, I can connect with the movie it's from, and then I can't help myself but say it out loud.
So my old business partner was the same way, where he just knew every single zinger that came from every movie, and I am like the absolute. So he would like be like, bah, 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 and I'm like.
Yeah, that scene's from when Wayne and Garth has that big, huge like margarita glass and then they're at the restaurant and like the guy's got, I have 2 cashier's checks for $5,000 each, and they're like, and he's like, may I peruse the contract? And he's like, just wants the money, so he's just like, yes, I like what you've done here.
I'm fascinated by the people that can remember like movie quotes to that level because my brain doesn't work that way.
I always thought it was cool.
Dan Kavanaugh, my first cousin, he's actually works at Crafted with Jacob and I, and he hates when we do that because me and my cousin Tommy, our moms are all sisters, aunts, but they're all the same, from the same grandpa. But anyways, we always do that with each other with movie quotes, and Danny never knows any of them, and he's always really like, okay, guys, please, I can't do this.
Stop it. Make me feel
stupid. Every single sentence is either from Step Brothers, Tommy Boy, or like Happy Gilmore.
All right, so today we have news. And more news. A bunch of AI. I feel like we haven't really caught up on a bunch of AI news and what's going on. Yeah. We had a few podcasts with some guests, and then we talked about the love of AI last week. If you guys haven't checked out that episode, please go check it out. It's actually really funny and cool. This one is we got a lot going on.
A lot of news.
I mean,
yeah, we got to start with something that I witnessed just about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah. What are you talking
about? That blew my mind. Grok.
Talking about Grok. Okay.
So talk to us, Grok. It's not necessarily like high level news because there's some clickbait stuff in here.
There's some crazy stuff going on.
There's some crazy stuff.
Yeah, this is different than the Twitter.
So this isn't Grok, Grok, which is Twitter's shitty AI that they have, which is pretty much just this racist.
Which is impossible to access, by the way.
You can access it if you're willing to pay the whatever per month money that it is.
Well, that's all part of Elon Musk's vision to make X like the everything after WeChat.
Exactly, which is not going to happen. By the way, so full disclosure, not in America. No. So here's my thing: is that that in China they have what's the app that everybody uses?
WeChat.
WeChat, right? And it's got everything in it. Well, it helps when the government can basically force people to use a specific application, right? The user experience of WeChat is dog shit. It's absolutely horrible, right? So no one would actually use it unless you were being forced to use it. In America, you can't do it. You cannot have an everything app and have it not be a dog shit experience.
A baby's born and they're like, okay, what's the name? Okay, and what's the handle?
So yeah, his whole Elon's whole approach for this, I think, is completely ridiculous. But anyway, this isn't Grok. This is GROQ.com.
It sucks when you have to spend the first minute talking about a product of saying what it's not because you actually named it exactly like another one.
Right. But what it is so this is some development, and Aaron from Prompt Privacy was telling me about it, and I had no idea about this company until like 2 days ago. And then sure enough, I went to the Big Cheese Weekly, and there it was. And so I took a screenshot. I'm like, look, it showed up on the Big Cheese. I'm not a complete idiot.
And seriously, if you listen to our podcast, you have to go to the BigCheese.ai weekly part of the website.
I've gone through news all over, like go to Google News, go to this and that. Like Big Cheese Weekly is literally the easiest way to get caught up.
It's the best news on AI, period.
Yeah. And it's not ego that we're saying. Again, I don't know why no one has figured it out yet, but like we've just got a very simple process
We're posting
to basically
40 articles a day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so it's good. But so what Grok though ultimately is it's some developer or engineers that came from Google who set up Google's TPUs, which is their tensor processing unit chip division. And these guys are now coming out with a new chip design called an LPU, which is a language processing unit. And they're basically chips that are specifically designed for large language models. And so you can go to Grok, GROQ.com right now, and you can go and basically it just takes you straight to a chat thing where you can ask it a question. And hands down will be the fastest response you've ever seen. Like fucking night. I mean, it's crazy how fast this thing is. 500, I think we saw 520 today, 520 tokens per second. I mean, we were like, hey, write a blog post about dogs chasing cats. And I mean, like in 1.2 seconds, it wrote, I don't know, a 500-600 word blog post about dogs chasing cats.
I asked it to write a blog post about George Lincoln crossing the Delaware. And it did it, which is just another movie joke, by the way. Except for, of course.
Is that the Herbie Hancock?
It's an Andy Dick thing.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know. Long story short, he says Abe Lincoln crossing the Delaware as a joke. Anyways, but it's like 1 second, and I read through it, and I was like, "This is really good." That's insane. So an LPU, I mean, is it more? Like the architecture of this chip must be fundamentally different to be able to produce that type of result.
That's what I was wondering. Do you know if the chip, so it's made for large language models, but do you know if it's still a digital chip or
no idea how it works. But I do know that they're also right now when you go to it, you can select either Llama 2, Mixtral. I think it's Llama 2 and just Mixtral are the two large language models that they're supporting. But the speed that they're doing this at, and so what their entire business model is ultimately going to be is they have an API that you as a developer can go and basically consume, just like ChatGPT, but you can now go and do it. But it's like, I think it's like 27 cents per million tokens, where ChatGPT 4 is like 3 cents per 1,000 tokens.
It's
so
slow.
it's ChatGPT 4 is just ridiculously slow. So this thing is just so fast, if these guys go public, be investing because they're going
just about to say, and this is an investor alert. Brought to you by Big Cheese. This is rarely do you see new markets get created. Right? You just did.
Yeah.
The LPU. Boom. Okay. Yeah. You're going to be hearing people that are on CNBC talking about this in a month or a week or whatever, saying, "Oh, we need them LPUs. We got to get them shipped and into the boxes."
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how you create value in the market.
It's incredible.
Right. Is by introducing new products and services. And the best thing that you can do is introduce literally new hardware technology. Yeah, the market loves that.
That's
shit.
Also what's interesting about this is like all we've been talking about or hearing about is the new models, the new language models that are large language models that people are consuming. This is fun, the other side of it, right? Like you have a piece of software that has an input and an output, but you also have the hardware it runs on, and that fundamentally is different here and way better, evidently.
Well, and the other thing it kind of opens up for me when I think about it is a lot of people leverage or use and ChatGPT because, the user experience is better, the output is better, but a lot of people I think have dogged on some of the other models, not because they the model. I think they blamed it on the model maybe, but I think it comes down to the implementation of said model.
Yeah.
And if you can, I like these smaller focused models and I like the open source models as well. But like if you can I think what you're seeing is that you can put a serious level of competition to a big player pretty quickly. You can make an argument, I guess, that OpenAI may not have as much of a competitive advantage as you think.
Yeah.
Like what is their moat?
Right.
What's going to make OpenAI a company in 6 to 12 months? Will they even be a company? Will they get consumed?
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure, and I think we'll talk about this with your topic that you wanted to talk about, but it's like, I don't know. I think that it's an industry that's ripe for constant disruption.
I do think their moat right now is because it's proven that other people can make large language models that are on par. It's the stuff that goes in that happens to your prompt before it gets to their large language model, which is like quite nice for the layman or someone who like, I'm not a prompt engineer, so like I don't want to have to learn all this new stuff to how to interact with this language model or whatever. So they do a lot of that, but that's quickly becoming like old news, right? Like, what do you think? Yeah.
I mean, I think that we can't discount how when OpenAI first launched ChatGPT 3.0 or 3.5 when it came out, how it was absolutely just quantum. Yeah. I mean, it took the world by storm. I mean, like back to what I think we talked about this on First Pod. Like when I was just on it, I saw it on TikTok along with everybody else on the planet, and I go to ChatGPT and I literally think it's like the biggest thing. So I think that the only reason I think their moat is just the brand awareness and the prestige around the brand. Right. I mean, I think that they were able to create a brand in the space before Google, before I guess not. You can't say Microsoft.
Yeah, but they already had to sell 70% of their company
to Microsoft.
Are they BlackBerry? You know, are they?
Maybe.
You know, I mean,
Maybe.
They could be BlackBerry.
Like,
that's a really good analogy, actually.
I mean,
yeah, I would probably agree with that.
First mover advantage doesn't necessarily work in this. And honestly, that might not be the goal. But and sometimes I say things in the pod and then I go back and I think I didn't consider these other points. Like you think about the experience, the brand; those are valid points. Yeah. The ecosystem that they're creating around their product. Yep. I do think, though, I doubt a little bit around their moat in terms of the performance of their current product and the pricing of their current product.
It's expensive and it's slow.
Yep.
ChatGPT 4 is so insanely slow. It's almost painful to use. So I use it a lot in like in Curdle and other things where it's just like it's just like da 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 da. Then you go to Gemini or you go to Grok or you go to any of these places that are and it's just like there you go.
I mean, I would agree. I think that they made an effort. I mean, the only moats that really can exist are if they have a technology moat, which obviously they can't because they're just taking it from all the information on the internet, or two, like the marketplace moat, right? Because only one marketplace wins per industry. Mm-hmm. That's why when you hear a startup come out and say, oh, we're going to be a marketplace, well, is there one that currently exists? And more than likely you shouldn't invest in that startup because it's hard to beat. You have DoorDash and then like you had Uber Eats, but DoorDash won.
What data are you, and this is, I think, leads into another thing. Maybe we should just lead into the ultimate. Let's lead into the ultimate and the memory thing. Okay. Because, like, what unique pieces is OpenAI collecting that makes it so you can't cancel their product? If I canceled my ChatGPT subscription right now, I wouldn't think twice about it if I had another option. My history and my profile and my GPTs that I created and my chat history, they haven't built up enough equity that I would care to lose them.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I mean, some other people might have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
OpenAI is introducing memory now, though, right?
Right.
Yep.
So that's another thing we wanted to cover. Talk to us about the memory thing.
Yeah. So OpenAI, if you've ever used ChatGPT, you know that you can be like, hey, what's my name? It's not going to remember your name across chats. Moving forward, they're going to be implementing a memory system. We're not exactly sure the technical implementation of it, but basically that you're going to have a memory that spans your entire account. So I can go and be like, hey, my name's Brandon. And then next time I say, hey, what's my name? It's going to be like, oh, your name's Brandon. So it's going to remember kind of across the entire account. Now, what's kind of interesting about this is, so we talked last week about me using these uncensored large language models for some role-playing content. Well, I've kind of leaned into it because I'm a deviant, and so I've been trying a bunch of different models. I've been downloading like Dolphin Mixtral, which is this uncensored like 28 gig fucking model. Great, by the way. But one problem that I had is that once the conversation starts getting to about like, I don't know, 100 messages or whatever it is.
I'm sure you.
I don't know. It's been bad, dude. We won't get into the details of it, but it starts to go just haywire. Every single model I have made go full crazy. So this week, we've actually seen ChatGPT kind of go not just hallucinate, but like lose its fucking marbles.
Yeah, people were all talking about that.
Where basically you have like ChatGPT just repeating the same thing over and over again. I mean, there's just this huge drift that's happening with them. I'm starting to see that with any of these long format conversations role-playing conversations that I was having, where it would just start repeating the same thing over and over again. I had one where it was literally like, and then you can expect, and then you can expect, and it just kept going. Same word over and over and over again. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I'm like, I want to see if I can build a better memory system for these long format chats. And so I went and I said, okay, every time that you do a message to a large language model, in the response of the large language model, we're going to save in a database with a vector embedding of it. So we can basically say, okay, next time the user asks a question, go find any messages that are similar to that and pull that in, and that's only going to be the history that we send to it. We're not going to send the entire chat history, right? And that's usually what you do is you just send the entire chat history, and they start losing their shit. So the thing that I did, which was a RAG-based memory architecture, which, funny enough, LangChain has a similar kind of thing. Yeah. But it worked. So I could have I had a 300,000 or 400,000 token chat that I could have real conversations with, but the only thing that was ever being sent to the large language model was maybe 3,000 to 5,000 tokens. So it was working. It was working great. So I'm wondering if ChatGPT is going to be doing a similar thing where we basically just have a database of all of your messages. They've been created into a vector embedding, and we're just using kind of a traditional RAG architecture for our memory.
So what the thing about LLMs and all this technology that's come into place is this concept that was created a long time ago, the neural network.
Right.
And that was really around a specific way of processing, right?
Right.
But is memory and so that's mimicking a human something in the physical world, a human being,
how the brain works.
like how the brain works, which we know is like this unbelievable computer, or whatever. It runs on low amounts of power, all these things. But are we underestimating the memory concept, the concept that I have memories and I have these core memories and I have these recent memories and I'm able to figure out what I need to throw. Like when you go to sleep, it throws away the stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Is that a part of the architecture that they haven't figured out?
I would agree with that. That seems like that is a part that's missing.
They did mention, I don't remember which article I read, but they had mentioned being able to update the stuff later on. How reliable is that actually? Whoopsie doodle.
Sorry.
It was I think the example I saw was a daughter likes some dolls or something, and then later on she's a teenager and likes goth stuff now. Right. So they were able to update that so that they could prepare. Who was I? Was I talking to you about this? I feel like maybe this is a dream. Maybe I'm having it. Maybe I should have a little bit less hallucinations. Yeah. But it was something to the effect of this interesting problem of once you have memory, then things do change. Yep. Your name's not going to change, but your interest will.
Sure.
And the things that you're telling it. So how do you manage and do that because just those embeddings are kind of hidden behind the scenes.
Right.
How do you actively manage those?
It'll be interesting to see what happens because when I'm interacting with ChatGPT, depending on the chat, I'm kind of acting as different people, right? I might be acting as this is the one client that I have where I'm a marketing role, or this other client that I'm a product role. Mm-hmm. And it'll be curious to see how well it does managing kind of across that. But they're also the GPTs. Like if you go create your own custom GPT, they're going to have their own memory space. So the GPTs won't, because obviously you could imagine if the GPTs were based on your memory, and you go use one of my GPTs, you can be like,
well,
hey.
two things. The memory thing is obviously an answer to what we were talking about. How do you create unique value proposition so that you can be sticky, so that you don't churn customers?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The thing though that I question is, are you just bringing a traditional application model in, a traditional database application model to a really cool technology, or are you advancing technology with this memory stuff?
Yeah, and
you
that's
know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the part I don't think we know yet.
Yeah.
Like again, the RAG architecture, retrieval augmented generation, that would make sense as a way of doing it, but yeah, I'll be curious to see kind of like exactly how they're ultimately
And maybe
implementing
obviously you don't need that, but it's something to think about.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I was just, as we were talking, I'm like, how good do these things need to get? And where are we just like making the technology better as opposed to like making better products and services? Like how do these, with the current state of whether it's Grok or whether it's OpenAI and ChatGPT 4 and 4.5 when it comes out and so on, like, okay, we're generating text. Okay, we're generating images. We have Sora now, which is incredible. We have to talk about it, by the way. I can't wait to talk about it. I haven't even actually used it, but can't wait to talk about
Well,
it.
you can't use it. That's why.
Yeah,
That's why it's a big
that's
nothing
why
burger.
you can't.
Thanks, all you cool people on Twitter that are make $1 billion a year, got to use Sora and posted your video. None of us can use it and see how long it took. What the none of us have been able to test it. But
but
those videos look amazing.
Yeah, but aside from like working on speed and all that kind of stuff, like what is there a next step in this stuff?
I think there is. I think that's what we were just talking about. Okay, you can generate text. Okay, you can think and process at a level unbeknownst. But AI, if you're saying AI, if you're going to build a robot that acts like a human, that thing is going to have things that don't exist. Right. Maybe emotions, maybe memory, maybe what additional physical capabilities. I don't know, but like for me, did we crack the AI code, or did we just build the most important piece to it? And there's a lot more that you still have to figure out
we've just added one more Lego to our puzzle here, and we're about yay big, and in 10 years we'll look back and be like, oh my God, we were just at the beginning of this.
I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Don't ever underestimate Zuckerberg, dude, and his army of coders, man.
Did you see him though have to turn around and apologize to all those parents at this Senate meeting?
Oh,
God, that was so painful.
What happened?
I did not see that.
So Zuck went ahead of Congress and basically, and I think it might have been Josh Hallway or something, like, I forget what that senator's name is. He's kind of a right wing cunt. Sorry, that part should be beeped out. But anyway, he basically was like, there's a lot of parents who have children who have been, abused and whatever on Facebook. Do you not have anything that you want to say to these parents? And literally Zuck stood up, turned around, and was like, I'm sorry, that the blah 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 blah.
Did they blend that meme with him at the UFC fight? Did you see that?
Yeah,
That was crazy.
that was painful to watch, dude.
He was kind of like, like I'm at this UFC fight, man, and okay, the guy's about to go on. He's giving this guy his gloves. He's giving this guy his whatever. He's like, oh, I can help with that. And everyone was like, please go away.
Dude, that was so painful. I felt for him watching that. I'm like, just back away slowly.
Leave.
That's going to be the meme
rough.
of 2024.
But no, but what really is, what is Facebook doing from an AI standpoint? So they had Llama. Llama was it Llama that was theirs, or was it?
I thought it was a different one.
Oh, I can't remember.
No, that was Llama 2.
Yeah,
and
Llama.
they have
Llama,
Imagine too.
I don't think they're doing a lot. I think they're
Yeah.
focusing on making the headsets, competing with Apple.
Right.
They have a ton of compute too, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
it's
no-
them and
no
Microsoft
question.
that have the most compute power
See,
right now.
see, the thing is about, and I don't follow the specifics about what they're doing in the space, but they are coming out with products. And the thing about Facebook is that you can't underestimate their company culture is 100% built on software engineering quality.
Right.
And that like it's not just, you don't just learn that from watching The Social Network. Like
That was a great movie, by the way.
that was a great movie.
Yeah.
But it demonstrated Zuckerberg was a very good, pragmatic Brandon type coder. Like the cut from the same cloth, Jacob and me and Brandon. Like get stuff done, but like understanding everything. And they have contributed more to the community of developers and people and engineers than anyone, in my opinion.
Well, the React compiler that you just shared the other day it's in production right now on Instagram. And it's like, good God, like that's going to be great.
They're doing, and so I guess my point is that they are shipping constantly. They are using these tools, and I do believe that they're a company that solves really, really, really difficult problems at scale. So like you look at Microsoft, they're there too probably, and they are. Yeah. But like just don't be underestimated if they come out and they just kill the game. And it's going to be something that you don't even notice. It's like your mom's going to be using AI on Facebook, and you're like. What's that? And they're like, I just clicked this button and it generated this whole invite and it lays artwork. And
Facebook should have just done what LinkedIn did. Not really, but this would be a funny implementation of it. And so I did this the other day. Someone said something really stupid on Facebook. Took it to ChatGPT. Great response. It was totally thought out, very reasonable, unemotional. I'm like, here you go, buddy. Just put that button on respond to some ridiculous message using AI. And it's like, you save a lot of heartache. Yeah, I mean, then I guess it wouldn't be as controversial. You'd have like actual, level-headed conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
But
what is that really weird AI feature LinkedIn just came out with?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't even understand what
Insights, or is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, on each post.
Yeah, that's not like the worst idea in the world. It's basically like someone makes a long post. You can like gather insights or some stuff like that, and like it'll tell you the main points of their long post.
Oh, okay.
The best thing about LinkedIn right now is the Instagram viral reels that people are making about like they're typing like congratulations Eric, but like there's another prompt behind him that's like you took my job, asshole. Fucking deal. Way to put yourself in there. That's like what they're really thinking.
Right.
It's the funniest thing ever.
Yeah.
So there's a couple more things. So we go back to OpenAI. The
going to raise just a cool $7 trillion.
How do you raise $7 trillion by Sam Altman?
I thought that was I thought when I heard that for the first time, I was like, oh, they screwed up. They must have meant billion and not trillion, because that's bigger than Apple and Google's market share combined.
Right.
And digging into that story a little bit, it turns out it wasn't exactly he's trying to raise that. This is the expected cost overall to do that
for the full
endeavor. And a lot of that is speculated to be in power. So like just for scale, the largest chip manufacturer in the world, Taiwan, my notes. Anyway, Taiwanese company. They are
like TSCM or whatever it is.
Yes, that's correct.
That's a geopolitical issue. That stuff's in Taiwan right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. But their revenue. Let me check my notes. I think it was like 500 million or billion. I mean, last year.
500 billion.
Why make billions when you could make
global? Sorry, global chip sales last year were 526 billion.
Jeez.
Okay, so global chip sales were 1/14 of what he's suggesting it's going to cost to meet demand for the future of AI. Okay, that was one thing I was just like, okay, these numbers are not. They're not today or tomorrow.
He's looking at it as a plateau, where there's these people like these guys that are coming out with these new chips.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The thing about it is he wants to build, this is all for a new chip. So the new chips would be this startup he's got, good God, I have to check my notes. Rain,
Why do I keep doubting this guy and saying he's going to fail?
I know.
Neuromorphic.
The guy he's never failed.
So basically, these new chips are analog instead of digital. Okay, and analog chips are much better at actually processing the type of stuff that LLMs and the work that they're doing. It's faster, lower power, and just cheaper in general to produce. So that's where he wants to get this overhang of compute power, right? And then throw software at it. But that's a new term, by the way, I want to talk about. I think it's called hardware overhang, and it's like this concept of think about today, like when you build software, you have to like the hardware generally has to catch up, right? Mm-hmm. We are constantly like at this threshold, like software is always outpacing hardware, and then the hardware eventually catches up. So like there's not much damage software can do. But what if hardware all of a sudden jumped like 30, 40, 50 years into the future? We had a lot of excess capability. Well, then you could build some software that could be very, very good, or it could be very, very bad, dramatically bad, right? And it could hit a global scale. So that's the concern there is you have the ability to do very disruptive things.
Like launch a DDoS attack that kills every single network just because you have so much power.
Exactly.
Right.
Like it's limiting today. Like you couldn't do something like that because there's only so many computers, right?
So but where it's kind of so not only does he have to figure out how he's going to raise the money.
Yeah.
Then we have the problem of actually finding the company who's going to produce the chips. Most likely,
It seems like he's playing a game that might he's playing this game that might be more like, guys that are wearing Metallica shirts in a basement are going to solve, like without raising any money. Like there's somebody that's going to build Doom, right? Like nobody built Doom. They built Wolfenstein. They built Doom, right? They just did it because they loved it and they figured it out.
Yeah.
Like some of these kids are going to figure this crap out, right?
That's kind of how I feel about what Grok is.
That's
though.
what I'm saying.
Right. Like those guys
That's
are
what I'm saying.
they're already there. They already have the manufacturing partnerships. They already know what they're building towards. And it's like, okay, why wouldn't Sam, instead of you saying we need a new chip, just say, okay, we're going to use these language processing units as our primary foundation, and I'm just going to go and invest, a couple $100 million into Grok.
Yeah.
I think his ambition is the issue. Is like he wants to do it on a scale so that we could do this worldwide in an instance and flip a switch kind of thing.
Well, and let's be honest, it also aligns with his style. Like he started OpenAI and literally went dark for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? He didn't talk to anybody. He didn't tweet like more than once. They were just in the lab. That's his style. Like he's let's get a bunch of runway. Let's not talk to anyone and let's do this. So maybe it just aligns with his natural way of doing things.
Yeah, but something else I read, the article you sent me, was this is not in line with OpenAI in general. Like their whole thing is like, AGI is not possible because we don't have enough hardware, essentially.
Now they're gonna make
and then
enough
he's like, you know what we could do? We could manufacture a shit ton of hardware. And it's like, okay.
It's like him at a board meeting, and they're like, hey, so aligning with our mission of making OpenAI safe and standard, but what if we just make $1 billion?
Right. Yeah.
So there's a kind of a controversial thing that I think is actually interesting for a different reason than every other clickbait article you're going to read on this. But Google this week shut down Gemini's image. Gemini is the rebirth of Bard through a rebrand, essentially, right? I mean, I'm not
good
sure.
idea by them, right? Bard was horrible.
Bard is a horrible name.
Literally the worst
Just go to
fucking name.
bard.google.com. Anyways, they call it Gemini, and Gemini is their Chat GPT. It's their interface for doing AI stuff. It's very similar. You prompt it. It can generate images. It can generate text. There's some nuances there. It's Google, so obviously there's polish there. But they shut down their image generation system, and it was because of us. I opened up Twitter, and like Brandon said, like Twitter is for me, my feed is much different than it used to be. Yeah. But traditionally, my feed is very kind of self-important, self-righteous, tech bros or like really good developers that have a big following, and so they just leverage their following. People that are really involved in mostly like engineering, software engineering, and tech. And influencer types, but they shut down this image generation system because it was, the news articles and the hype was that basically it wouldn't generate images of white people.
It was too woke.
It was don't say that.
I know, but no. I say that only in jest, right?
Yeah.
That it was quote unquote too woke. So because all of these everybody's afraid of being not inclusive anymore, and so they kind of put in all of these guardrails to make sure that if I'm asking for something that's racist, don't do it.
Well, Washington Post did a study last year, and it was basically like, hey, they went and analyzed, does AI have bias? And they said, hey, go show me a picture of a successful person. And 9 times out of 10, it was a white guy in a suit. Right. And it said, okay, show me a picture of a social worker. And it was usually an African American woman. Right. And so there's this implicit bias in AI that may not be built in from the, okay, we're going to scan all the data, and then put this prompt in that's like, okay, what in the real world, white people are rich and black people are. It was just, there's an implicit bias in the nature of the data somehow, some way. And it's very, 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 very damaging. potentially that AI could perpetuate bias, because that's what in this world we're trying to not be like that. Right. Well, Gemini's the use case that got exposed on the internet was historical information being misrepresented.
Right.
Yeah. So people said, "Hey, generate an image of an 1800s senator," and the prompt response, "Here are pictures of a diverse set of 1800s senators."
Right.
And as we all know, there was no diversity in the 1800s in the Senate, and also they said, "Please generate image of Nazis,"
That was so
and they
bad.
generated images of Indian, African American, like people of color.
Yeah,
that were not,
a very
so
diverse set of Nazis.
Quit dropping your iPad. But it got Andre and I had this conversation on the way to work out this morning, on the way home from working out, and I was like, I understand that. Like, I think the Verve, if you're going to read about this, read the Verge article. It's more balanced. Right. It's like, get off the clickbait crap. Like, it's like, yeah, we can understand this, but it delivers both sides of the story. But to me, the issue that I have is misrepresenting historical facts. Yeah. I think that we see it. Like, I used the analogy when I was growing up, we had the history book, right? And that history book talked about the Trail of Tears, right? And the Trail of Tears, it was one paragraph on the side of the bottom of the book on the page about, this one thing that happened. The Trail of Tears was really bad, and it was really sad, and a lot of people died. The end.
Moving on.
Right? And it's like, talk about it. But here's a story about the white senator that did great, and he's the very, there's this concept of bias in the historical information that's presented. And I think that what you're seeing is, what you don't want to see is if someone is using a tool. And this is my take. This is my take. If you're using that as a search engine or an encyclopedia, right? Like, you got to think about that, because the fact, or it's like Indiana Jones in the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Archaeology is the search for fact. Right? Yeah. Facts.
Yeah, I'll jump on that, because yes, it's like, okay, for us it all makes sense. We had history class, we had history books, we had like actual books of history that we could go back and read, and like we knew that this was in general like accepted as canon and absolute. Well, in a world in the future, a few years from now, where I grew up on LLMs using these technologies, if there's any bias at all of a sudden the history is completely convoluted.
Right.
Like, where is the source of truth?
Well, somebody could just inject a prompt that's like, hey, don't talk about this. And that's kind of what's happened in the real world. So maybe it's actually mimicking the real world a little bit.
Now. It's much easier to like, instead of one book in one classroom that 100 kids get to see over the course of a few years, now it's like 100,000 kids, because they're all using the same LLM on the internet.
Yeah.
It just expanded the issues.
That's a concern for me.
It is. It's absolutely a concern. And the fact is that we should not be rewriting history. Whiting, but I mean, history is what it is.
It is
and
what
we,
it is.
And we did some horrible shit, and we need to accept that. We need to accept, and move on not move on, but like realize that that's what it was. But we should not have these AIs basically trying to rewrite history.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that I think if you're talking about historical, it's like when Google first came out, like people were like, do not use Google with your paper. You have to cite your source on LexisNexis. It's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
And it's like, but there's a point to it. Is like, if you just say that, oh, the LLM is the source of truth, and
I think there's a very high likelihood that is the case, and
like people are going to just rely on LLMs for the source of truth.
Well, yeah, I do think so.
So have you guys heard of Perplexity? I was talking about that. Okay, so basically Perplexity is trying to solve this by doing real-time like internet searches, and then taking that web page, finding the most relevant results to your query, putting it in a RAG, and then reading that based off your query, and then responding back from that article. Okay. So it's more or less using the LLM to discern what it is you're trying to ask, then extract that information from sources on the internet. I think that's probably where Google has to take this. Is like, they were never intended to be used for searching. Like that was the first thing
know,
everybody always
right?
did. Was like,
Yeah, it's the first thing.
It's all we knew.
So one of my
Yeah,
clients, the first
exactly,
thing that their board logged into ChatGPT at a board meeting. These people are like, this is not a joke board. The first thing they did was Google themselves on ChatGPT.
yeah,
Who is Brandon Corbin?
yeah. I haven't done that yet.
They
Maybe I
searched
need
for
You haven't done
fact.
that?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yes,
Yeah.
they search for fact.
They
and that's what
search
people-
for fact, and that's not the use case for LLMs is creation.
Right.
Yeah.
It's creation.
Now, I will say so when I was playing with Gemini, sources were included
That's
way
right.
more than ChatGPT. And I think that's where we're ultimately going to have to get is that these things need
They
to
have
be
to
grounded
tag
in a source.
The labeling
Right.
mechanisms that they're doing when
Right.
they're doing this stuff, all the auto labeling and all that, they just attach that source.
Yeah. Yeah.
Attach that source.
Right.
You just tag it with a source.
Right.
Because
But the problem is that a lot of times that source is like 150,000 different sources.
or that source is completely nefariously injected into the model, which is another concept for another day when we talk about copyright issues.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
so my conclusion on all of this is like, in a world where, okay, the future, we've got all these new chips and everyone's using LLMs and like they're way better, and we're creating everything, and the history and like truth is now convoluted, and so now things are just what we create. I think it becomes so individualistic, and your truth is just like. And the way that you're experiencing the world and history is so specific
It consolidates power to an unbelievable level.
Right.
to you. Yeah.
If everybody's using the WeChat in the world for AI, for LLMs, and they're just like, we really don't need those books. They ain't fast.
Right. Yeah.
We really don't need that Google anymore.
Right. We can just use our-
We don't need real links.
Yeah.
We just need the information. Well, of course, I'd love that information. Can I get Uber Eats as well?
Right.
Can I get? I don't know why I said that, but like, can I just get everything? Can I just get it all? Like, path of least resistance. Now, it's like it's kind of scary. If everything's coming from one place.
Yep.
So
And ultimately, Elon was actually right.
yeah, well, he's a smart man. He's a
very
smart man.
Very
broken
smart man.
clock. That's right, twice a day.
Yeah. Even though I can't stand him anymore.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Everybody, this was the Big Cheese AI podcast. I am DeAndre Herakis, joined by Sean Hise, Brandon Corbin, and Jacob Wise. Catch us next week. See you.